There are many obstacles that can block the path to a successful software project. When you come across one, it helps to think like a seasoned hiker and follow the trail marked by blue blazes around the problem so that you can get back on course and keep moving forward. Welcome to Blue Blazes Podcast. I'm your host for the journey, Jay Tower, and I'm a partner and principal consultant at Trailhead Technology Partners. In this series, we talk with industry experts who share their best tips for avoiding the pitfalls on the path to successful software projects. My guest on this episode of Blue Blazes is Javier Lozano, co-founder of .NET Conf and CEO and founder of Lozanotek, a .NET-focused software development boutique based in Des Moines, Iowa. Javier is a longtime community leader and Microsoft MVP, recognized for over 15 years for his contributions to ASP.NET, .NET, Azure, and the broader developer ecosystem. In this episode, Javier and I talk about .NET Conf, the global annual conference and celebration of the launch of the latest version of .NET. We also explore the behind-the-scenes effort it takes to make .NET Conf happen, from coordinating with Microsoft to keeping the content inclusive, relevant, and community-focused. If you've ever tuned in to .NET Conf or wondered what it takes to bring the .NET community together on a global scale, you won't want to miss my conversation with Javier. Hey, Javier, welcome to the podcast.
Hey, Jay, thanks so much for having me. It's a pleasure to be here.
Yeah, it's really good to have you. I see you're wearing your branding, both your company on your shirt, and then also what we're going to be talking about today, .NET or .NET Conf.
I am. And you said, hey, you know what, if you have something you want to show off, I figured, hey, might as well. I have these T-shirts all over. I have a polo shirts as well. They don't get a lot of use sometimes because I work from home.
Sure.
So I figured, hey, I might as well show it on a podcast.
I love it.
Not a video person podcast. So,
well, just to start out, let's assume that somebody watching this, maybe one or two people haven't heard of .NET Conf yet.
Yes.
What is .NET Conf? Jay here. Just a quick break in the conversation to share how Trailhead can help you tackle your toughest business challenges. When you're navigating uncharted technology terrain, Trailhead creates custom software solutions that put you back on the path to success. Ready for the next step? Get started with an expert consultation at trailheadtechnology.com/offer. That's trailheadtechnology.com/offer. Now back to the conversation.
That's a great question. So .NET Conf is, I'll say, the biggest because we have yet to see any numbers larger than what we've had. So it's based on air quote science from that perspective, that we are the biggest virtual conference for .NET. We're also the launch event for .NET. That means that every November, whether it be the first week or the second week of November, depending on the cadence of the team, we launch the next version of .NET. So this November, here, November 11th through the 13th, we will be launching .NET 10, which is great. It's crazy that we're launching .NET 10, even though the technology is over 20, over 22, 23 years old or so.
Right.
But it's pretty cool that we have the ability to do that in the platform that we built. So
yes, our second time around with .NET, so to speak, but the 10th version of the second time around.
Absolutely. It's actually, you could call it the third version because we had .NET Core there for a bit. That was kind of like they were still trying to find their thing, and they're like, oh, we're rebranding it to be
just
.NET. And that's the downside of technology, is naming things is very, very hard.
It is one of the hard things in software.
Mm-hmm.
Even when I'm writing code and I go back and change the name of variables and functions all the time and say, no, I think it should be this. No, I think it should be that.
Absolutely. And the thing, it's funny you say that because even, so one of the things I do as a consultant is I work with a company or several companies. And when I'm with a company, I kind of go around different teams, and even the logistics within a team of how they approach something compared to team A to team B is worlds apart, even though they're a cubicle away, right? Or now a team session away, right? It's pretty significant. So after a while, I get lost trying to remember. It's like, well, we did it this way. It's like, oh no, that was this team. You do it this way. Say my mea culpa, right? It's my fault because I'm the one switching contexts all the time. The team is not, which is good, right? They can be focused. But yeah, it's just always fun.
Yeah, indeed. So tell me a little bit more about the origin of .NET Conf. I know that's not
Awesome.
the first name that it had. I know you had a co-founder. Like, what's the history of
Yes.
this event?
Yeah, so we started .NET Conf in 2010. So this is our 15th year that we've done it. And the reason why we started it, I'll start with that and kind of work out. And it's a kind of brief but yet important question, important decision. Is that at the time my co-founder Eric Hexter, who is in one of the Austins, he was part of Los Techies. Remember forever ago?
Hmm.
That was a blog series or I'm sorry, a community of bloggers.
Hmm.
And the most common one people will know is Jimmy Bogart. So Jimmy was part of, he knows Eric and good friends with Eric. So we all, back in the day, used to hang out together in the MVP Summit and the different conferences we would attend. Anyway, so Eric and I were sitting one time, we are just talking about it, and his kids are in a similar age group as my kids, right? And you know how this, as being a dad as well, that community is hard on the family, right? Especially if you're going to be, if you want to present, if you want to be at that conference, or if you need to travel or anything else. So Eric couldn't travel as much because of the logistics of his family. I couldn't travel as much as logistics of my family. So we sit there and I'm like, hey, could we create a virtual conference that we would want to attend?
Hmm.
Right. So I want to see the content that I care about. And unfortunately for me, I care about the 300 to 400 level courses because I'm already in the weeds of .NET. So I want to find out the things I may not know about, which could come from the product team rather than a fellow MVP. Because if a fellow MVP has it, I'm just going to email them out. It's like, hey, I'm trying to figure this out. Can you help me this? Right. So
Right.
it's the nice advantage of having the network that we have. Right.
Yeah.
So that was the synthesis of all of it. Right. So how can we get the content that we want without sacrificing the family time? Because if we're in the same boat, other people are in the same boat,
Hmm.
right? Other people who are speakers who want to get that knowledge. So we kind of built that network.
Okay.
So we spiked it. We, at the time, both Eric and I were really involved into ASP.NET MVC, which was kind of in its infancy, even though it came out in 2008, 2009. But, 2010 was the first year that actually people were building apps with it because it was, at that time, RTM. So we partnered with the ASP.NET team and said, hey, how would you all like to build something like this? And they said, yeah, this is great. So we kind of flipped the script where we said, hey, instead of having thousands of people travel, why don't we just have 2 people travel? And the concept for the Microsoft speakers was like, well, just put a calendar hold on your calendar, and you walk from building X to building Y on the Microsoft campus, and we do this conference. And we did back in the day. There was a really old, archaic technology that some of you all know about called live meeting. So we did our first conference via live meeting because I think it was INETA or the MVP program. I don't remember who offered it, but you could get free live meeting as an MVP. So it was like, okay, we have these great resources. We're going to charge $0 for this conference because we want people to have it, and we're going to do a live meeting, and we're going to see how it goes. So all the fingers were crossed. We launched it, and MVC Conf was a success, right? Then we did another one, cleverly, again, back to naming things are hard. We cleverly called it MVC Conf 2, because why wouldn't you? And that was the second year. And then we were noticed that there was a bit of a rift between ASP.NET developers, web form developers and MVC developers. And we were sort of causing it by calling it MVC Conf. Like, what about web forms conf? What about handlers conf or Ajax conf? All the things that all the technology were there. And talking with the Scots, all the 3 Scots. So Hunter, Hanselman, and Guthrie, because Guthrie wasn't running Azure back then yet, right? He was running a big chunk of the developer stack. They're like, hey, why don't we just call it ASP Conf? Okay, great. So we kind of brought all worlds together and made it 3 days in similar format that we have now. So that was by far the largest ASP conference ever. I don't know how many hours of video we had, how many concurrent sessions we had, keynotes. It was pretty nuts. And again, all virtual at the time. This would have been 2012, which virtual at the time is like, why would you ever do this? Like, you just get on a plane, you fly, and then
Right.
it all happens.
Yeah, I
Um,
think I think somebody who's maybe younger might even miss that right there. Is that 15
right,
years ago, starting a virtual conference, which now sounds obvious and is
right.
every
All
day,
most of them are right,
right? I mean, here we are interviewing each other in on an online platform, but
right,
15
exactly.
years ago that was unusual.
Yeah, and it's funny you say that because as we were evaluating as the 15 years we've done this, we looked at different technology sets. Live meeting worked. Was it the best? Absolutely not. Right, because it it was clunky. Right, it
Mm,
didn't allow us just to kind of have this conversation. We're a time zone away. We're several states away, and it's like you and I are here together. Right, so it
right.
makes you feel close. Right.
Hmm.
Um, with the other tooling, it wasn't as smooth as it was, and it required you to download software rather than open up a browser, right? And the thing that people may not who are new to this to development, installing software on a corporate machine was sometimes well, I'm sure it's still the case. Sometimes you can't do it, right? You can't install a different plugin because back then everything was plugins on the browser because the browser didn't do much, right? It wasn't until Chrome that it sort of said, "Hey, look what the browser can do," right?
Hmm.
And that was over several years ago. So we were very dependent on that. And sometimes it hurt our numbers, sometimes it helped our numbers if they already happened to have live meeting installed.
Hmm.
That's what be another reason why we say, hey, let's stick this for live meeting, because in a corporate environment, chances are they're all going to have live meeting installed
Hmm.
because that was the corporate tool of the time.
Right.
It's the equivalent of Teams today, right? So,
Right. Yeah.
and for the record, we've tried doing that over Teams, a conference, a couple times, and I can just check that off the bucket list and say never again. Just because,
I'm
again, it's not smooth for the
yeah.
consumer and for the producer as well. So,
Right. Yep. Yeah, it's got to be smooth for everybody.
exactly.
So it's worth noting that a lot of people probably make this confusion with you, but you're not a Microsoft employee, and
I am
.NET.
not a Microsoft. I always been the plus one. Actually, one of the Scotch said, "You will always be the plus one of the .NET team until you choose not to be," which is
That's
great. I
nice.
mean, that's a good. It's like, hey, I could potentially get a job there if I wanted to, right?
Yeah, that's nice.
But no, I've been an MVP since 2000 and what was it? 2005. So it's been 20 years since I'm an MVP.
Impressive.
So yeah,
Congratulations on that. You can see
thank
mine
you.
right over my shoulder here,
I
but
was going to say mine. So the reason why you can't see mine because my office is a hot mess. So I have the virtual background, so you cannot see the ugliness that my office is, and that's on my to-do list. Right, let's do that. And the thing is, I'll give you credit because you have the stacks of all
Hmm.
the years. I can see the blue ones as well.
Yeah,
I I I just went with the blue ones just because it's
I mean,
easy.
you can see I'm right at the top here. So if
You
I win
are
one more time, I'm gonna have to figure out what to do there. So
right.
I might call you up and say, hey, what do we do about this?
And the thing about it, though, those were recent. And like when we started, that wasn't like you just got the gift, you got the pin, you got the stickers, you got the the award thing you have in the back. But
Mhm.
this was not recent. It's all a blur for me now for the MVP program. But it's like at some point they started it. I think it was my 10th year or something around they started it. So like I'm missing discs from the previous one, and
Okay.
you could order them like. Why do I care about ordering something from it says 2005 when it doesn't really matter,
Sure,
So,
sure.
but if you can stack them, go for it.
So I'm curious, as a non-employee
Right.
that is essentially running one of the larger events that Microsoft has.
Yep.
I know everyone you're working with is pretty much a Microsoft employee, and
Hmm.
they're all largely focused on getting out this new version of .NET that usually
Right.
launches at .NET Conf, including this
Yep.
year .NET 10. So what's the biggest challenge with running a big event like that with a whole bunch of people while also software is trying to ship?
Oh, that's a great question. So the challenge, and this is with any large project, is communication, right? Um, since the beginning, we've been lucky from the perspective that it's a yearly conference, right? But it doesn't mean we don't work on it for over a year, right?
Hmm.
So we're constantly talking, right? Uh, Back in the day, .NET did not ship every year,
Hmm.
right? It was like whenever Visual Studio would launch, .NET will launch,
Yeah,
because it
every two
was,
or three
and if
years or something.
right, and if you
Hmm.
want to know how often .NET will launch, just go look at this Visual Studio. I'm sorry, versions 2005, 2008, 2010,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
So that's when .NET would ship. It was shipped every 2 years, maybe 2 or 3 years, depending on when the cadence was. And the reason why it was because it was tied to Windows and blah 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 and all these things, right? Um, when .NET went to a yearly cadence, by then we had gone through all the different iterations and we had a well-oiled machine.
Hmm.
So what does that mean? Our virtual team, our V team, is composed of many different aspects of it, right? So we have people who are just focused on the content for Microsoft, and we talked about them. Okay, we want to talk about, for example, the conference. Let's talk about the look of it. There's 3 days, so it's typically is .NET / Visual Studio, or something that we're doing the day one for developer platform focus. Day two is cloud, mostly Azure, obviously. And number three is community, where we bring people like, for example, yourself, you're speaking this year, right? And you spoke last year before. So we are bringing you to share that content and the passion that you have for .NET. And it's because it's not just a product, it is the entire community and the people that do work around it. So I handled some of the community aspects of it. This year I didn't, because I got pulled away for another conference that you and I were just at for Dev Intersections. So my time was a little bit limited, but I was working on the website, getting all the stuff updated so we can kind of launch the agenda here and the upcoming weeks, so people can see it. So that's the nice thing about it, is we have a great support group with the V team that we know, okay, by this date, we're going to get X date. Okay, awesome. Javier work on that. Jeff Fritz work on that. John Galloway works on that, on the content. So we have the ability, and there's numerous other people behind the scenes who have an awesome studio at Microsoft, which would Learn TV. They've been our partners since the beginning, back when it was called Channel 9, for those of you who might be like, what is Learn TV? It's like, it's the rebranded of Channel 9. And so we don't worry about any of the studio logistics of the recording because they're professionals, right?
Yeah.
So, and it helps them to show, look, we're creating a huge event like .NET Conf. Other Microsoft teams come to us. We can produce something like this. So it's been a really good symbiotic relationship, and it's all because of trust and communication that has been built over a 15-year period, right? So if you look at it this way, imagine working in a highly productive and motivated team that you do yearly releases. I know some people may frown, how dare you do yearly rather than whatever sprint releases. Like, but we don't have nothing to release every sprint, right? Our
Yeah, right.
sprints are a year long,
Yeah.
right? But it works really well because we have the trust and we have the capacity to do it.
So if someone is going to go to their first .NET Conf or their 15th
Mm-hmm.
.NET Conf
Yep.
by different names this year, how do you, it's a virtual event, so you think like all you do is sign on to the website
Yep.
.netconf.net, right?
Right.
And click play, right? But
Mm-hmm.
how does somebody make the most of it? Like, how do you make the most of a virtual conference like this? How do you take advantage of it in the best way?
That is great. So several years ago, one of the things that we just opted to do was local events. So we want to watch parties, right? So for example, as an MVP or anybody who is involved with the community, you can hold a .NET Conf local event, which can either happen the day of the conference, or sorry, during the conference, right? Or it can happen afterwards when you can watch the content that we already have out there. And guess what? All that content within a week or two after the conference, just because Ignite is the following week. So the same people are going to be slightly busy, right? We put all of the slides and demos and anything that anybody has shown out on our GitHub for people to try out,
Mm-hmm.
right? So the way you get the most out of it, you can just sit back and watch, right? And the nice thing about it is through YouTube. So unfortunately, if corporate blocks YouTube, because some corporates do, and that's just the world the world we live in. You can watch it on your phone. You can watch it on a device, and that's again the evolving of the technology. You can watch it at home if you want on your Apple TV and your Roku. It doesn't matter,
Yeah.
right? So you can do that. You can just consume it and take it as is. You can take some of the content, represent it, because now you have someone who showed you how the content works,
Right.
right? You can have the watch party. You can have a .NET user group. content. You can just borrow the sessions if you don't have a lot of access to speakers, or you can reach out to speakers, like say, hey, Jay, I want you to talk about .NET user group. There's many ways that you can actually leverage the content and the community aspect that the conference tries to create.
That's great. I like that, making it more human.
Exactly. Yep.
Yeah.
Because I hate to say that there are no humans, right? From a regular, like when you and I were at Dev Intersections last week, it was great because I could do this and I can touch you, and likewise, so I could touch your shoulder and whatever. It's like we were sitting across from dinner from each other, right? One night,
Right.
and it was great. But now we're worlds apart. Well, not worlds, but significantly apart.
Yeah.
If I'm watching this in Africa, we have a lot of countries from Africa watch the conference, right? And where I'm sitting as an Australian, I'm watching this live stream. I don't have that connection. So we do the best in trying to come up with different aspects of making that wire seems like non-existent. Like we're just right here next to each other.
And then the videos which are live, obviously, throughout
Right.
those 3 days, or at least 12 hours a day. Is that right this year?
Yeah. So the first day is 8 a.m. Pacific and these are all Pacific times, 8 to 5, 9 to 5, and then 5 a.m. to 5 p.m. on the third day. So that's a lot of community content on
It's
the
a
third
lot
day.
of videos. And so someone,
Right.
Sitting at their desk at work maybe doesn't have time to watch all of those, but they all are also available, as you mentioned, on YouTube. So you could watch them later at home or whenever you have time. What's the delay there between the live and when they go up on YouTube?
So the delay is probably a week and a half, because there's a lot of videos, and literally here's how the sausage is made for anybody who wants to know about it. We take the 12 hours and literally splice it. So we have the team that was work that myself, John Galloway, and even Fritz used to do after the conference. So we're downloading gigs of video, right, and splicing it using the tools. But because we have the Learn TV folks who are ninjas at this, they get it done instantly, and they're publishing straight to the YouTube, right? So now we have an army of video editors behind, and it's not just like, oh, I'm going to cut this. Like, no, they're listening to like, okay, now the session actually starts. So, because, typically, as I've done this before, there's a little bit of banter between the host and the speaker. Hey, how's it going? It's like, okay, go take it away. And the moment take it away and you start talking, that's when the session starts. And then we crop it at the end, right? So there's a lot of minutia that goes there. So that's why I say it takes about a week and a half, depending on what the workload is. What we've done, we've gotten more efficient. Day 1 or day 2 will probably be available by the end of the week, because they got 2 days worth of, of doing it. Day 3 is pretty laid back for the studio, because we're doing the hosting. It's all community. There's nothing happening in the studio like it does before. So there's a lot of catch up in there. Worst case scenario, the entire 10 plus hours of content is out there as one big file stream, one big YouTube video that you can go watch.
Yeah.
So it's not like your TikTok, when is the video going to be out? It's like, no, it's out there in multiple forms. It's just, when do you want to consume it, right? And the schedule's there, so you can work it backwards and kind of figure out, oh, I think around this time it should be on the large stream.
Nice. So of the 3 days, those first 2 days you mentioned, those are basically the Microsoft or .NET teams doing that content. Third day is the community day. That's the 12-hour day.
Correct.
How does the team decide what to include in that community day of content?
The hardest thing is what not to include, right? Because this year we had over 300 sessions.
Wow.
Submitted for submissions into it. And that took a couple. I mean, I gave a pass on it. And again, I got busy, and I probably did like 100.
Wow.
Because we use Sessionize. I mean, we've been using Sessionize for several years. It's a great tool if you are a put on a conference. It's great for that. So it's trying to get, okay, well, first of all, when we try to pick a session, is not just Javier choosing a session. It is more an evaluation process. We go through, and I evaluate it a certain way. I may put some certain notes. Jeff may go through and evaluate, puts a certain note. John puts it, and so on. And then we literally get together and talk about it. It's like, hey, what do you think about this? Are they a previous speaker? If you're a previous speaker, it helps a lot. Or if you have previous content that we can actually see, because at the end of the day, you only get 30 minutes. So you have to be polished, that you got to start, and end. And I know you've done this before. It's tight. 30 minutes.
30 is way harder than 60.
It is a tight runway.
Mm-hmm.
But if you landed it, I'll pick in another good friend of ours, Steve Smith. Steve Smith lands that triple Indy. There's an old reference there every single time, right? So that helps a lot. When there are new speakers, it's like, oh, they're speaking about X. Great, let's give them a chance. But we hold their hand a little bit more just to make sure that they're comfortable, right? Because it's kind of a deer in the headlights, right? Feeling, because you're not talking to anybody. Like if you go to a large conference or a conference and you're a speaker, at least you see people. Here you
Right.
only see your camera. And am I doing well? Am I doing bad?
Right.
I don't know. I have
You
my agenda, but how do I keep track of it?
tell your best joke and it's silence, right?
Absolutely, 100%. So that's kind of where it's difficult to pick, and it's not just on content. It's of content. Say it's 60% of it, right? And then the remaining 40% we split into different criteria. And the way I view it is different the way John does it and the way Jeff does it, which is great because you have different approaches to the same problem, right?
Yeah.
And
Different
then we get
perspectives.
together and do that. Different
Nice.
perspectives, which is what makes all of this work.
Yeah. So switching gears just a little bit here, I
Yeah.
want to ask you just a general .NET question, not so much about
Awesome.
.NET Conf, but you've obviously been hands-on and paying attention to .NET from the very beginning for, like you said, 23 or so years here now. What do you think stands out in your memory most as like a moment in the history of .NET that was transformative?
Oh man, that's a really good question. And I'm going to sound like a nerd
Yep.
when I say this. And I would say it's when ASP 2.0 came out.
Okay.
And the reason why I say that is because if any of you did any with ASP 1.0 and 1.1, know that it was very, very painful
Yeah.
at the time to do that. Because when ASP 2.0 came out, it was more people think it's like, oh, it's not extensible. Well, it was even worse extensible back in the day, right? So we had the concept of providers. We had the control model, the web control model, user control model got a little better. We were talking about this dinner. It was like the last week, and we're like, hey, they added yet another method. So if you wanted to do something on the begin something or the after something method,
all the events,
for rendering literally HTML, right?
Yeah,
You had some of that. That's when it was like, whoa, this is bigger than ASP. After server pages, that's what ASP stands for. From back in the day, which was either done in VB script or it was done in JScript. And really what all it was just a script that ran and said, here's your dynamic content, here you go, and it ran it every time. Right? It may cache it a little bit, but it didn't do anything. But with ASP 2.0, that's when I would say it sort of became sort of a formidable opponent compared to just Windows development, right? Because .NET at the time was like, look, here's Visual Basic on steroids. Here's MFC, Microsoft Foundation classes on steroids. All these things that you can build desktop apps. But look at .NET. .NET's got all this, all these components from third-party vendors. Well, ASP got all of that and got hardened really well in that 2.0. So it was more like, to me, that's what lit the wick. And you can just see it just taking off on that rocket. Again, you could talk about, hey, .NET, .NET Core and everything else. Cool. That was just building on top of that and making it cross-platform.
Yeah.
And in essence, it was a rewrite, right? Because you're going back and you're making this class that was only running on Windows. Does it perform the same way on a Nix? I say Nix could be Linux, Unix, whatever, macOS environment. Yeah. So it's a rewrite. It's a replatforming of everything. But I already know how a web request works. I already know how a loop in C# works. You know what I mean? So it was more of like, okay, here's the new playground on it. But back then, when it was all brand new, that's to me where it was more of like, this is where the line in the sand get drawn.
Yeah. .NET Core would be an easy answer to give for that one, and not wrong. But I like that because, like you said, .NET Core was building on the popularity already of .NET Framework.
Absolutely. And chances are, really here is like we're talking about, how do you get more predictable projects and so forth. More often than that, legacy app, whether it be a 4.8 app, an MVC 4 app or MVC, not 5, 4.8 app or web forms app is still there, and it's still paying the bills in some companies.
Yeah, a lot.
Because it works,
Yep.
right? And then now there's discussions of let's convert it, right? Or migrate it, upgrade it, or whatever the thing is to .NET 10, 8, whatever that flavor
Yeah.
is. And it's a easy port. So
Right.
it goes on to show how great of a job they did on the other side
Right.
as well.
Yes. No one wants to call it rewrite, but
Right. Exactly. Yeah. Or
but you're
I
right.
should say correct. Correct.
So Javier, on the podcast, we like to finish up with a question I ask all my guests, which is, what other topics or people should we have onto the podcast? And that's around our theme of making software projects more predictably successful. It could
Right.
be, process, it could be tools, it could be languages or frameworks. But what topic or person do you think would be good to have on?
So, as I said a little bit earlier into the conversation, was that 15 years has taught us a lot. And the big reason why we've been successful is because of the relationships and nonverbal communication, more often than not, that the team has, right? And you build that over time. As I get older, in my career, or wiser in my career, depending on the day, right? It depends how you feel, is that I focus more on the people, right? And then I do on the software, because the software will happen if you have the right people, right? I'm a big believer of the mantra of people, process, systems. Systems are always last, because if you have the right people, you can build the right processes. If you have the right processes, the system just mimics that.
Mm-hmm.
So it is a pyramid, people being at the bottom, not because they're not important, because they're the foundation for everything.
Mm-hmm.
So to me, topics that focus more on how do we interact better as each other, right? One of the things that makes a Scrum successful is not the fact that we have ceremonies, that we have a stand up, or we'll have a bunch of, cards in Jira or sticky note, whatever that thing is to do that. No, is that we have highly motivated individuals working on the same problem, right? And sometimes those individuals are not motivated because life happens and life is hard, right? But trying to find a way to interact with them is important. One of the things that, like, I say reading, and I use the word reading very loosely because I'm a very slow reader, so I audible everything because I can do it all over the place. And one of the books that I'm really been into lately is called the Laws of Human Nature by Robert Greene. He has another one, I think it's called The Laws of Power, that I've yet to. I got attracted to The Laws of Human Nature because it had the word human and nature in it, right? Because I'm always wondering, what does that mean to that author, right? It's been phenomenal. You talk about different personas, and for me as a consultant, I always take it more of like, oh, that's the type of personality that this type of engineer, scrum master, product owner, business person exudes, and this is how you go about interacting with them, right? Because at the end of the day, everybody wants to win, right? So focusing on that type of content that people could learn from the human aspect of things is great, because .NET 11 is going to come out and it's going to make things faster. .NET 12 is going to come out and it's going to make even things faster. So that's cool. But at the end of the day, you still have to put up a J or put up Javier at work, right?
Yeah, right.
And making that smoother is the underlying pinning for any successful project.
That's great. Us engineers can forget that this is all by humans and for humans,
right,
at the end of the day. So it's easy for us engineers to lose sight of that.
Yep.
But I appreciate that. So that title one more time.
That is called The Laws of Human Nature by Robert Greene. And again, he has several other books around it. That's the one that I started with because it get recommended by other people. And I'm loving. I have like 3 hours left on, and it's like a 20+ hour read. Listen, nice. It's great.
Interesting. Well, great suggestion. Also, great conversation. Thanks so much, Javier, for your time today and for all of your insight. And then, of course, also for putting together .NET Conf for all these years for all of us.
Thank you for having me, Jay. Apologies for the power blip. And then you were like, what power blip? Because we know the power of editing, you will not know that a power blip happened. But thank you so much, Jay. It was also great to meet you in person. And I can't wait to see you again. And actually, everybody here, go check him out at .NET Conf because he's one of our
That's
presenters.
right. Day 3 at .NET Conf. I'll
That's
be
right.
there. Oh, thanks, Javier.
Yeah, thank you, Jay.
That's the end of this Blue Blazes podcast. If you're interested in hearing more conversations like this one, with industry experts focused on how to make software projects more predictably successful, make sure to subscribe. Trailhead can be found online at trailheadtechnology.com, on Twitter, LinkedIn, and Facebook. Until next time, thanks for listening.